I know this is not going to happen, and I know it's not realistic, but, and I only say that because the Wilf brothers have shown that they are perfectly content with mediocrity, and I'm talking about potential candidates to replace general manager Rick Spielman. I know it's not going to happen, but damn it, one can dream. I am not taking anything away from the great things that Rick Spielman has done leading this front office, but at the same time, the buffoonery, trying to be cute, trying to show that you're a genius instead of trying to do your fucking job, the offensive line. If you're a Vikings content creator, the lack of an offensive line has been a regular part of your show for years. I'm tired. I have offensive line fatigue, but here we are. The Minnesota Vikings have been an offensive line away from truly being an elite team in the National Football League. We drafted Ezra Cleveland. Oh, he's going to be the future left tackle, but we're going to play him at right guard this year. And you may have ruined this man's confidence. We'll see how it all plays out. But if you want a guard, then how about this, Rick? Draft a fucking guard. Wow, who would think? And then, oh my God, every other year, I'm tired of having kicking issues and then latching on to players that you love that aren't really good. When Anthony Barr agreed to a contract with the New York Jets, I was like, oh my God, thank God it's over. Oh my God, we can finally move on. And then he reneged and then said, I want to come back. And Rick Spielman got up quick and started shaking his butt cheeks for Anthony Barr. We got Lawrence Taylor back. Come on down. Oh, hell yeah, we will make this work. This year, Anthony Barr, and I know he's on IR, but we're talking about Anthony Barr, the player. This year, 2020, Anthony Barr has the third highest cap hit for your Minnesota Vikings. Next year, 2021, third highest cap hit for your Minnesota Vikings. In what world does that happen for a guy who's simply an okay player? I'll tell you what. The world of Rick Spielman. Rick Spielman is the guy, let's say you're having a family feast. Everyone else will get the side dishes. Rick, you're in charge of the main entree. He's like, no worries, I got it. He shows up with a family pack of Lunchables, and everyone's saying, what are you doing? What the hell type of shit is this? And Rick says, don't worry about it. These Lunchables, if you leave it in the smoker long enough, it will taste like filet mignon. Well, Rick, what? Just get the filet mignon. Just get the steak, baby. No, listen, it's going to work out year after year after year. So I know it's not going to happen, but one can dream. And we're going to start with Mike Borgonzi, Director of Football Operations for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been with the Chiefs since 2009 as a college scout administrator. And beyond Patrick Mahomes, they're loaded with talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Travis Kelce, best tight end in football, Tyreek Hill. And even after Tyreek Hill, they have a ton of receivers. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even though he's hurt right now, but they're hopeful that he makes his return for the playoffs. Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I just feel like Mike Borgonzi, I feel like he's gained experience based on what he went through in Kansas City to find players that perfectly complement one another to give your team the best chance to win. And then also, let's say, I don't know if the Vikings are going to do this anytime soon, but let's say if they finally say, let's move on from Kirk Cousins to maybe perhaps a Zach Wilson in this upcoming draft if he's available. Well, Mike Borgonzi and the Chiefs, they've recently gone through that, going from Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. And then also, I'm just going to take a hunch here and say that maybe he has an okay relationship with Eric Bieniemy. Can you imagine a leadership group for your Minnesota Vikings of Mike Borgonzi and Eric Bieniemy? Man, I'll take that in a heartbeat. Number 2 on my list, Will McClay, VP of Player Personnel for the Dallas Cowboys. He's been with Dallas since 2002 as a pro scout, and there are 2 elements here that I think are very important. Number 1, Stephen Jones, son of Jerry Jones, dubbed Will McClay the MVP of this past virtual draft. He said of him, quote, he embraced this. So that tells me that you're adaptable. That tells me that you can adjust on the fly. And it may not seem that big of a deal on the surface, but when you think about the Vikings regime over the last 7 years, it's been what? It's been stubborn. It's been stagnant. We're going to do the same shit every year and expect different results, and then have the audacity to be pissed off when the shit falls apart. On the offensive line, the Vikings, they have been passive. Point number 2 for Will McClay, the Cowboys with their offensive line, they've been aggressive. It has been a main staple for that franchise for the last several years. I know that Will McClay understands the importance of having a true offensive line. I would imagine that Will McClay, let's say they were to interview him, the Minnesota Vikings. Hey, what would you do to switch up to change this team? And Will McClay, he would open up the books and say, all right, what do we have here? We have, oh my gosh, two top flight receivers. We have maybe a sexy 1-2 punch for the tight ends and Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin. We have Kirk Cousins, who he has his flaws, okay, but he has shown when the right resources are around him that he may not necessarily put your team in a position to win by himself, but he can at least give your team a chance to win. And you have the best running back in football? What's the problem here? Oh, it's the offensive line. The offensive line? Say no more, fam. I'll take care of it. Will McClay, VP of Player Personnel for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 3 on my list, Louis Riddick, currently with ESPN. Now, he's been with the network for the last 7 years, and he did just recently interview with the Detroit Lions. However, if he's open to being interviewed by other teams, the Vikings should take a look at him. Before ESPN, he served 12 years in an NFL front office between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles. Most notably, director of pro personnel from 2010 to 13 with Philadelphia. Incredibly sharp mind. When you're on a national stage, when you're with the national media, you have to cover all 32 teams. It is very, very hard to break down each team by detail. You can just look at a couple of stats before you go on air and say, all right, this team is 3rd against the run, and they're the 4th best in their passing offense, and that's it. That's your blah, blah, blah. Dude, Louis Riddick, he breaks down each team. He's straightforward, direct. This is what the team needs to improve on. This player they just brought on last week he is so smart. You can tell he looks at film, not just the stats. So those are my 3 candidates: Mike Borgonzi, Will McClay, and Louis Riddick. Now, an honorable mention does go to George Paton. You owe him an interview out of sheer respect. He's been with the team for 14 years now, assistant general manager, but with all due respect, no. And I don't want this to be interpreted as disrespect to George Paton, the individual, and the qualifications that he has, but when you've spent 14 years with the team, he would need to really, really knock it out the park in the interview to basically, I don't want to track any sense of regurgitation that you would carry on from the last regime, which is why we fired them in the first place. That's just my 2 cents. We do this 3 times a week. Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Check me out on Twitter at realistic_Randy, Facebook at Realistic Randy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. We'll see you tomorrow.